Season 5 of Stranger Things is the most disappointing season of the entire series. I'm not exaggerating. Oh, spoiler alert. This show debuted in 2016 and became famous for its dark tone and 80s nostalgia. But today, it's turned into a joke. We got bad acting, Eleven looking completely different in the face, clothing brands that didn't even exist in the 80s, characters that just vanished with no explanation, cringe scenes that made zero sense for the story, a final fight with Vecna that felt rushed and empty, and all kinds of weird theories around Eleven's disappearance. I gathered most of these failures and put them into this video. I want you to tell me in the comments what other nonsense you noticed, because there's a lot I probably missed. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and most importantly, subscribe. At the beginning, we were supposedly given the chance to see the moment Will first ended up in the Upside Down back in Season 1. Because time has passed and the actors don't look the same anymore, that CGI version looks nothing like Will. The writers were incredibly lazy. Instead of continuing the story right where Season 4 left off, when portals were opening all over Hawkins, they decided to fast forward a year and a half. That's laziness, because the only way we find out what happened during that time jump is through Robin casually talking on the radio in Episode 1. That's how we learn that Hawkins is under quarantine and the military has blocked off certain areas, but nobody really knows why. That's literally how it's explained. Which makes me wonder, didn't Season 4 end with the ground splitting open? How big is this town supposed to be that most people are completely clueless, only the main group knows what's actually going on? It's ridiculous. Anyone who's lived in a small town knows that even a minor car accident becomes public knowledge instantly. Mike's younger sister Holly suddenly looks way older, and of course she's played by a different actress. That's why it feels so off. You're suddenly forced to care about a character you never cared about before. Why was she pushed so hard into the spotlight? Why create a whole separate storyline for her when the show already has too many characters? In the first 4 seasons, Holly was played by twin actresses Aniston and Tinsley Price. The producers seriously expect us not to notice the change just because they put another little girl in pigtails. Regarding Episode 1 of Season 5, I kept trying to understand the purpose of that woman at the beginning who's running from the military through the forest. I mean, you clearly see soldiers in full uniform chasing you, and you don't stop for even 1 second to ask why. It's not like you're being hunted by criminals. You can clearly see they're soldiers. If you're innocent, that makes no sense. It feels like a lazy writing decision and is just to mirror Eleven training in the woods. And speaking of that, watching how Eleven was swapped with her stunt double between shots was unintentionally hilarious. It was so obvious it wasn't her that it reminded me of those old commercials where Michael Jordan's mom was clearly the stunt double.
Razzle-dazzle.
That's my mom.
The entire US military is focused on Hawkins, flying helicopters all over the area, and you're telling me they somehow missed a massive training camp with ramps, buses, and abandoned vehicles? Come on. But we'll get to how incompetent the military is later. There were other moments where stunt doubles were painfully obvious too. Will in the hospital, and especially Dustin. When those guys corner Dustin in the cemetery and throw him to the ground, can someone explain why he suddenly transforms into Hagrid from Harry Potter? Because that giant head with an obvious wig was not his. Sure, it's normal for the characters to look older, they grew up, but Lucas looks like a 34-year-old man with 2 kids and 2 jobs. Honestly, he looks exactly like actors in the 80s who played teenagers in their 30s. The biggest visual change is Eleven's, and those changes are not exactly natural. That's because the actress, Millie Bobby Brown, clearly had cosmetic work done. Lips, face, maybe more. The issue is that fans wanted to see Eleven as they remembered her. Instead, we got handsome Squidward Eleven. Her facial expressions no longer felt natural or matched the emotional weight of the scenes. In Season 1, you could barely breathe in the Upside Down. People needed protective gear. Everything was dark, wet, slimy, with particles floating in the air. In Season 5, Eleven and Hopper are casually eating beef jerky in the Upside Down, like they're on a school field trip. And the Demogorgons? They're no longer scary or intelligent. In Season 5, a Demogorgon moves so slowly that Mrs. Wheeler actually attacks it with a bottle. Or remember how long she stayed underwater in the bathtub with Holly? How long are we supposed to believe she held her breath? And while we're on the Upside Down, where did those bat creatures go? The ones that killed Eddie in Season 4? They completely vanished. The Upside Down comes with creatures, but they conveniently appear and disappear whenever the plot needs it. Not to mention how obvious the green screens were in certain scenes, or how people blame Netflix's overused lighting style infecting Stranger Things. Can we talk about how this group always magically comes up with perfect plans at the most random moments? Someone hears one word and suddenly gets an epiphany, turns into Fred from Scooby-Doo, and creates a plan that, surprise, works perfectly. How many times did we watch them clear a table just to draw up another genius plan, or come up with theories about the Upside Down that were somehow 99% accurate every time? I was relieved to see I wasn't the only one annoyed by this.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. That's what we've been missing. That's... Okay. This is better. This is the wormhole.
Wait, I don't get it. Okay, this is Star Wars, and this is the Death Star, and this is
The wormhole.
the wormhole.
Some people even pointed out more similarities between Stranger Things and Scooby-Doo.
My dude, any luck? Foggy in mind.
Get away from the door!
It would have been much better if they kept the Mind Flayer as the main villain, that massive creature in the sky from earlier seasons, where the hive mind concept actually made sense. Instead, they introduced Vecna, who didn't exist at all before Season 4. It's a brand new plot. It feels like they tried to concentrate all the evil of the Upside Down into one character and spoon-feed the audience. This is the bad guy. Now we fight him. The mystery was gone. Suddenly it was just Vecna snapping bones and announcing himself with a clock. The story completely derailed. Are you seriously telling me that over 4 seasons nobody noticed that massive wall of organic matter in the Upside Down, and only now, in Season 5, they discover it's all a wormhole, that Vecna exists in another dimension above it, and his plan was to merge worlds and bring chaos to Hawkins? And Dimension X looks like that music video from Linkin Park.
It doesn't even matter how hard you try.
The military in Season 5 is basically a badly written collective character. They only exist to create obstacles for the kids. In Episode 4, when the Demogorgon goes wild, what does the military do? They surround it in a circle and shoot at it. A circle. Shooting bullets. How does not a single bullet hit another soldier? It looks cool, sure, but it makes zero sense. Then Vecna shows up through the portal and massacres them, proving how powerful he is. But his power level is wildly inconsistent. When he chases Holly toward the cave, he grabs her with tentacles. Yet Derek, an overweight 11 to 12-year-old kid, pulls her free. So this kid is stronger than the telekinetic ruler of the Upside Down. Okay, and that cave, supposedly Vecna's weakness, he avoided it completely. Until suddenly he didn't, and all he had to do was try harder. Max had been lying in that hospital bed for almost 2 years and Vecna never found her. Great powers, huh? And don't worry, we'll get to how he's defeated by kids in 10 minutes. Before that, more embarrassing scenes. Demodogs chase Max in the hospital. Lucas carries her with a boombox blasting that song they've been milking nonstop. The elevator doors don't close in time. A Demodog jumps at them and Lucas kicks it out of frame like it's nothing, and it looked terrible. And somehow the Demodogs don't hear the loud boombox at all. Mrs. Wheeler then decides to be heroic and puts an explosive container in a washing machine to distract the monsters. And it works! Of course it does. Way too convenient. Meanwhile, Max and Holly are having what feels like a podcast conversation in the dream world. You've spent 2 years trying to escape Vecna, you're finally close, and you stop to chat slowly. Nobody's in a hurry. There's also Will's coming out scene. We already knew he was gay, the audience knew, but now he gathers everyone, including people he barely knows, like Murray, to announce it while the world is literally ending. People are dying, and Will's making an announcement, then comes that awkward crying. The scene wasn't necessary for the plot. His conversations with Robin about it felt far more natural. Members of the LGBTQ+ community criticized the show for queerbaiting and for reducing Will's personality to just one trait. Even Noah Schnapp himself reportedly felt skeptical about that scene. Another forced scene was Jonathan and Nancy trapped in the room filling with white goo making emotional confessions. Everyone thought it was a proposal. Turns out it was a breakup. Where did that come from? What was the point? The writing never prepared us for it, and the award for the cringiest line goes to, "Do you want to unmarry me?" I can already picture the writers congratulating themselves. And why did that goo start flooding the room? Because Nancy shot an energy orb that caused a shockwave, tearing open that organic wall and pulling everything toward the void. After 11, Hopper and Kaylee escape through the portal. Do we ever hear about that massive crack again? Nope. Another abandoned plot. Another sign of poor writing. Family members don't feel related at all. Joyce barely interacts with Jonathan. Mike, Nancy, and Holly feel like strangers. We also see Vecna's origin. Young Henry touching a mysterious rock that affects his mind. Do we ever learn more about that rock? Where it came from? Why it had power? Of course not. When the kids crawl through a narrow gap in the cave to escape Vecna, they conveniently don't show how Derek gets through. Probably because it was impossible, so they just cut the scene. And then the final battle. The most pathetic moment in the entire series. 5 seasons for a fight that lasts 6 or 7 minutes. Nancy suddenly becomes Rambo, perfectly accurate with firearms, better than trained soldiers. When did that happen? The group climbs massive cliffs in under 2 minutes. Impossible. Lucas throws water balloons filled with gasoline. 11 goes full anime mode, impales Vecna like Vlad the Impaler. Joyce finishes him off with an axe and says, "You messed with the wrong family. Absolute cringe. Why didn't Vecna summon his army? Where were the Demogorgons and Demodogs? On vacation?" Hawkins residents like Mrs. Wheeler and Mr. Clark see Hopper alive after believing he died in Season 3 and have zero reaction. Another forgotten plot thread. Max attends graduation and despite missing school for over a year, incredible attendance record. All main characters have plot armor, or Under Armour, literally. Holly's sleeve showed an Under Armour logo, a brand that didn't exist until 1996. They edited it out later. These kids kill soldiers all season long and nobody cares. And Derek's family is left tied up in a barn with no food or water, forgotten, just like the pregnant women in the Upside Down experiments, also forgotten. 11 killed them too. And finally, the ending. Is 11 alive? Mike suggests she was an illusion created by Kaylee. One clue, after Kaylee is shot, 11's hands are bloody. When the portal closes, her hands are clean. It's a cool theory, but this show doesn't respect details anymore. They probably just filmed on different days and forgot. The open ending exists to set up spin-offs and turn Stranger Things into a franchise, Marvel style. What other mistakes did you notice in Season 5 of Stranger Things? Let me know in the comments.